and welcome everyone to this episode of Albright Achievers. I'll be your host for this evening. Our interview with Josue Matos, who is a 2019 graduate of Albright College's School of Professional Studies and the founder of Beerwall on Penn. I'm Melissa Wells. I'm the Academic Program Chair for the Business Administration program in the School of Professional Studies. And I'm also an Albright alum myself, as well as the daughter of another Albright alum. So I have quite a long legacy here at Albright College, in addition to my 21 years teaching here. Over 18 of those have been on a full-time basis. I'm thrilled to welcome all of you and thank you for attending this session tonight with Josue. Our Albright Achievers series is where we highlight Albrightians who have taken their talents from the classroom into the real world and who are now excelling in their fields. And of course, Josue has fulfilled the American dream of opening his own business. He started his new business venture while he was an adult student here at Albright, completing accelerated 5-week courses and also working full-time at his job at Penn at the time. He created Berks County's first self-service taproom in West Reading. Hopefully, if you've not been there before, you will get there very soon. Great place to hang out. I met Josue teaching his capstone course, the final course in our School of Professional Studies business curriculum. And in this course, students work in teams to develop a full-blown business plan, taking a business idea of their own choosing from concept to creation and then presenting it as if they're seeking financing for that new business venture. Somewhat along the lines of Shark Tank, but much more involved and detailed. And that's exactly what Josue had to do as he was developing Beerwall on Penn. Because he was already so eager and far along with his idea for Beerwall, he actually did not use that for the capstone project. His team elected to do a different business. So Josue had double duty of developing the business plan for Beerwall at the same time he was developing his capstone business plan for another project. But I'm sure he found a number of synergies there that he's going to tell us about very shortly. In terms of the format for tonight's session, I know some of the audience members have submitted questions for Josue in advance, and we've tried to incorporate those into the interview. We did our best to do that, and at the end of the interview, if you have additional questions, we'll turn on the cameras and microphones so that you can ask those of Josue. Thank you again for participating. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Josue Matos, who is a graduate of the class of 2019 at Albright in the School of Professional Studies and now has his bachelor's in business administration. And of course, he is the owner of Beerwall on Penn. Welcome, Josue. And welcome to Albright Achievers. Thank you for participating. We really appreciate it. To start off, can you tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to come to Albright School of Professional Studies for adult learners?
Thank you, Melissa, for having me. Of course, I always like, coming back and doing anything with and for Albright. So yeah, my name is Josue Matos. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, and my family moved out here around 1997. So I did finish elementary school at 13th and Union. I went to Northeast Middle School, which is right up the street. I graduated from Reading High School in 2007, and then obviously finished up my studies at Albright in 2019. And yeah, how I decided to attend the program. I was working at Penn, and one of my managers at the time had recently graduated from the program, and I saw like a graduation picture on his background, and I always knew I wanted to go back and finish my college degree. I just didn't know when or how, but like I always knew that was a goal that I wanted to achieve. And he explained the program to me. He was a little older at the time, which I kind of related to because at the time I was 24, 25. but I knew it wasn't too late. So he explained the program. I thought it sounded like a great fit. And I met with an advisor shortly after that. And that fall, I was enrolled for some, general ed courses, and well, all the courses I needed really before I could start my capstone.
Great. And what was your experience like going through SPS as a non-traditional evening student, especially with all the responsibilities you had at work and then tackling school in addition to it, and then a business plan on top of it?
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, to say it was easy, I couldn't say that at all. It was tough, especially when we got into the meat and potatoes, if you will, of the capstone and all the like the statistics and the marketing courses, and some of those courses were really challenging, and I was really stressed out. I mean, I had alopecia at one point. My hair was falling out. It was crazy. I mean, but the format itself, it always allowed me to ultimately finish my class and get to the next one. And I used to look at it like that. Like, the program is designed for me to be able to focus on my professional career. So I was working 9 to 5:30, and then I was literally stopping at Wawa or stopping home, grabbing dinner, and then I was going right to class from 6 to 10. But the fact that it was one night a week and one class at a time just allowed me to really focus in on that course, and obviously, push through the curriculum. But I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed all the classes that I took. And I even thought, once I was done, before the business took off, I thought maybe I could find a master's program that was similar to the Albright one. That's how much I enjoyed it, being able to keep my career intact. So yeah, the program is awesome for anyone that's working during the day and wants to study at night.
Great. I was just going to ask you about that. Was it your original plan to start your own business when you started your degree program, or did that come out of the degree program or something else? But it sounds like you might have had some maybe sights set on a master's degree when you started.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, when I first started, my intentions weren't to open a business. I had never even watched an episode of Shark Tank until I think one of my marketing courses. I think her name was Bonnie, and I always forget her last name, but there was a couple Bonnies that taught. Yeah, it wasn't even until it was that course, actually. It was a marketing course, and she told us to go watch Shark Tank episodes, and we came back and talked and spoke about it. And then that's when I used to come home and I used to talk to my wife, Valerie, and I'm like, man, wouldn't it be cool to, open a business or, do something like that? And she's like, that's something that you could do. I don't think I would have any interest, but I think you're wired to do it. So she was always super supportive of the idea, but that's how it started. It was more or less just like, man, it'd be cool to own a business and pitch on Shark Tank or pitch to investors. And I guess subconsciously I was preparing myself without knowing it. Yeah, originally, no, it wasn't. I was working at Penn. I enjoyed it for the most part. I was in a sales job. I knew that there was a lot of opportunity to keep moving up and get promotions and go out to the field and be able to travel. So the idea was to just get my degree and then kind of apply that and move up the corporate ranks, if you will. And then what really, I guess, lit the fire was when I finally got a promotion at Penn. And it was because I had, at that point, probably 3 years of Albright under my belt. I had like one more year left of the SPS program. I think I had 12 or 14 months left. So I got a promotion. And so I kind of got there a little before I finished. And I thought, man, like, I'm finally in corporate. I have like my own office, and I got to wear like, a shirt and a tie. And I remember having this feeling after months, like, this isn't what I want to be doing, but it took, you kind of going down that path of thinking I wanted to be, just to kind of have a corporate job. It took that promotion to really feel like, this isn't what I want to be doing. And then, just with the timing of everything and the capstone, having to create a business plan, it just all happened organically. And I remember telling my boss, like, yeah, I'm probably not going to be here too much longer. I'm going to finish this this capstone and see if I could, open this restaurant. So, and it worked out.
How did your program at Albright, the coursework you had and the capstone course perhaps help you? Was it useful to you in the real world experience of building a business plan? Did you find that it was helpful?
Oh my God, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I had started working on the business plan when I still probably had, maybe 3 or 4 classes left of the capstone. So I started a little bit early, but I felt like at that point I had enough knowledge to, at the very least, start with, an executive summary and getting into like the SWOT analysis and things like that. So I just found this template on Google that sort of seemed like everything, it had all the sections of what a business plan should have. And I kind of just filled it in as I went, at night or during my lunch break at work. But when it came down to the more difficult stuff, like the financing and the financial forecast, and I had to have marketing campaigns and all of that. I mean, I can't even explain how much the Albright program helped. Just having you there and the financing, and even my classmates. I mean, I remember this gentleman Stu, who was just a brilliant guy. He was so good with numbers, and we were working on the pro forma for the capstone project, and then I'd have him peek at my my financial forecast for my own beer wall business plan. So those courses really prepared me to have a business plan that I was able to take to the bank and to investors, which is what I did.
I was just going to ask you about that, how your Albright faculty or your fellow students helped you. Were they supportive of your initiative to bring Beer Wall to fruition? Were you able to rely on them? How did that work with your colleagues in the cohort that you were a part of?
Yeah, so for the most part, they were all pretty receptive to it. There might have been 1 or 2 who didn't want to do anything related to alcohol, maybe for personal reasons, which I obviously respected. But for the most part, they all thought it was an awesome idea. They were on board with it. My idea was, when I started working on some of the early pieces, was to go to the group like, hey guys, like, look, I have like, 10 pages done already, or I have this piece done. We could just refine it and work on it together, which is what I was doing. And then it just, so happened that I got so far ahead that we were told to pick a different, idea for the capstone itself. And we ended up doing the droneography, which was actually super fun.
Yeah, I remember that project. That was a cool project too. The capstone, for everyone else listening, the capstone project that Josue's group did and presented was for a drone photography business, which was a very unique and creative idea. So obviously, Josue, you're a very creative kind of guy, working on 2 very distinct projects at the same time and very unique in both aspects. Beer Wall is unique, as we'll hear about shortly. I'm kind of curious, though, before we get to you describing Beer Wall for us, what kinds of challenges did you have encounter, or obstacles did you have to overcome as you were trying to put Beer Wall's business plan together and bring it to fruition?
Yeah, there was definitely a lot. Just some of the ones that I can remember early on was just learning, what banks were looking for, right? So I needed collateral. At the time I was living in me and my wife Valerie. We had an apartment, so I had no collateral. They were looking for real estate. So that was, an obstacle I had to overcome. And luckily my parents actually, were able to give me their house essentially to put on the loan as collateral. So that, that was one. The scariest one was probably the government shutdown. That was, winter of 2018, I want to say, like that December of 2018. And we're literally I'm on like my 3rd bank, and we're in the process of trying to get an approval. I'm tweaking the business plan. My partners are all willing to put, their houses on the line as collateral. All of our credit scores checked out. So we're kind of just waiting. Every week we're waiting, like, are we approved? Are we approved? And then the shutdown happens, and we had no idea. You know, some people were saying 2 weeks, some people were saying 4 months of the government shutdown. And, you know, the Small Business Administration is that it's a government program. So we were just like in this like state of just the unknown. I didn't know if we were going to get an approval. And at that point we had, I played chicken a little bit, and I had paid the general contractors to start work in West Reading. So, you know, we were kind of already spending some of that money from the investors, which they were okay with, because we all just felt confident that we were going to get the approval. I didn't see any reason why we wouldn't have, you know. So that was the scariest one for sure. And then the financing, you know, I got denied by the first two banks. The first bank denied me, or they denied us, because collectively one of my partners didn't have good credit. He didn't have enough collateral. The next bank denied us because they had too many restaurants already under their SBA program. So they didn't want to take on the risk of adding another restaurant. And then it was one of their managers who gave me a phone call after we got denied. And he said, listen, I'm going to connect you with my wife, Rachel Rowley. And she is, a commercial lender at Fulton Bank. I talked to her about you and your team and your business plan. And I think that you have a strong chance of getting an approval with Fulton. So I met with her, the next week. This is like a week before Christmas. And she believed in it. And she says, Sway, I believe in this idea. I'm going to do everything I can to present it to the underwriters and to my boss, who ultimately has to approve it. And sure enough, probably a month or two later, we ended up finally getting an approval, and we closed the documents. And I think we closed April 1st on our documents, and we opened up April 18th of 2019. So
wow.
we pushed the limit. We did, but again, it
wow.
all worked out.
That tends to be one of the most difficult things, is getting the financing in place. Prior to teaching, I'm an ex-banker, so I have some familiarity with that process. And it's especially difficult when you're talking about the bar and restaurant industry. Most banks are not big fans of funding, so you usually have to go through SBA funding of some sort. But it sounds like you also put together some equity financing with some investors. Can you talk just a little bit about how you made that happen?
Yeah, so one of my mentors / really good friend of mine since middle school, he had experience with the SBA because he franchised and opened his own Domino's pizza store in Bethlehem. So he pretty much tutored me through that process, and that's when I really felt like this could be a reality. Because I knew, like, in the beginning it was daunting. Like, we added up everything. I knew what the startup cost would be. We were at probably like $500,000, and I'm like, man, how the heck am I going to raise $500,000? But then I knew with SBA, they normally look for 15 to 20% down. So then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I can probably raise 20% of $500,000, to put as our down payment on the loan. And that's sort of how I approached it. And I remember, watching Shark Tank and learning about valuations and how to give equity and how to sort of negotiate with investors. And a really cool part of the story was when, at that point, I probably only had one investor on board, for a quarter of what I needed. So I still had to raise the other 75%. So I applied for this. It's called the Angel Venture Fair of Philadelphia. It happens once a year. It's normally in March or April, and you have to apply and send your business plan in, and they have to review it. And if you get chosen, you get like an email or a phone call. So I said, what the heck? I sent this business plan, which wasn't refined at all, mind you. This is like February of 2018. So I wasn't even done with my cohort, so I had the business plan I sent must have been good enough, obviously. So I get an email one day saying that, out of 160 applicants, my business plan was chosen to go attend this angel venture fair and, pitch to a panel of a dozen angel investors. So I'm like freaking out, and I'm like, all right, this is crazy. Like, so I prepare myself, I go, I do my pitch. It was literally just like Shark Tank. You walk into this big conference room, I had my PowerPoint set up, I had all of my finances and things like that in front of me. And You were literally given, I think, 12 minutes to pitch, like to the second, and then like they'd stop everything. So I did that, and unfortunately, I didn't get a second call, or I didn't get I didn't get an investment from anyone there. But there was one guy specifically who reached out to me, and he sort of went over my my pitch deck, and we kind of refined it, and we made it better. And he told me, listen, I think you have something here. I wouldn't give up on it. He was like, I'm not going to invest, but he was like, from experience, I know you're going to be able to find someone or a bank or someone to give you the rest of the financing. And he connected me with Evil Genius Brewing in Philadelphia. And again, it was just a glimmer of hope. It was like, yeah, I didn't get an investment, but here was someone reaching out saying, there's something there, keep working, So yeah, it was awesome. And I met with more investors, and honestly, my 4 investors in the first one, M.B.A and Penn, they ended up being family and friends. I personally, 3 out of the 4, personally, I knew them, for a lot of my life, and I trust them with my life. And then the one guy came on at the very end, who I'm very grateful for, because he was willing to put his house on the line. And so, yeah, I found my 4 investors, and it all worked out. But, there was a lot of no's before I got those yeses.
Yeah, that's very common from the small business owners that I work with. There are lots and lots of no's, but it kind of reminds me of the quote that I give everyone at the end of the capstone course, having to do with not giving up. And I won't put you on the spot and ask you if you remember the quote, but essentially it's don't give up and find out why when you're rejected so you can improve it, and so that you can do better the next time. And it sounds like you found somebody as part of that angel financing presentation who could help you do that. And that's terrific. It's excellent. So proud of all the work that you've done on Beer Wall. Were there any other obstacles you encountered besides the financing, or was that the main issue that you had to overcome?
Financing was definitely the biggest one. And then we had some hiccups with the liquor license, and so the liquor license was owned by the previous owner that was there, from Go Fish. And there was just, there was just, I guess, maybe a little bit of animosity there, given how, obviously, if my business ever went through something like that and had a devastating disaster happen like that, I would imagine that I'd be kind of upset too. But, there was nothing that besides that I felt was going to stop what we were doing. Obviously it would have delayed it by many, many months because we would have had to get another license, but there was just things with the liquor license that, we were going back and forth with or on for a few weeks. But, we kind of all put our differences aside, and we spoke over the phone, and we ended up getting the approval, and it worked out, which I'm happy for, because I always liked Go Fish, and I like the space, and I've even supported Go Fish even after all of that. We had takeout out during the pandemic. So, but that was it. It was just the financing, the government shutdown, and a few hiccups with the liquor license, which I'll talk about for the second location, which was, also pretty scary, but we'll get into that.
Okay. By the way, Heather Clark, who owns Go Fish, is also an Albright School of Professional Studies grad. Yeah. And now she's reopened down in Sinking Spring. So, yeah, we have a couple of those folks around there on Penn Avenue. And I think your landlord is an Albright grad as well.
Yeah, she is, Nancy.
Great. So West Reading's full of Albrightians with lots of ambition and great execution. Yay. So tell us about beer. I'm sorry, go ahead. I was
going to say Ben Franco, who was the wind down.
Yep.
Albright guy, so.
Exactly. So tell us about Beer Wall, the layout, the features, the menu items, how this unique kind of self-service tap system works. I've been there, but I would imagine a lot of folks listening haven't been there yet because they live out of town. And lately, no one's traveling. So, but for those folks who do live in the area and haven't made it there yet, hopefully they'll come and check it out. Tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, so it's the first self-service beer restaurant in Berks County. So for anyone that hasn't been there, it's a traditional restaurant. It's a full restaurant with we carry liquor and we do craft cocktails and we do wine. We have a from scratch kitchen. The only difference is that all of our beer is self-serve. So upon walking in, we check your ID and we link a debit or credit card um, to your beer card, and then that beer card essentially gives you access. And I don't know if Steven has a picture or anything, or if he's showing it, but essentially that beer card,
Here.
yeah, the beer card unlocks. Oh, nice. Here we go. I was on a different screen. So yeah, the beer card that you're given, that little RFID reader below the screen, you place your card onto the reader, it unlocks the tap that you're on, and you can pour as little or as much as you like. And you're only paying by the ounce, so it's all calibrated by the ounce. The average pour, I believe, the last time I checked, the average pour is about 4.5 ounces, which is really cool because it lets us know that people are sampling beers and they're kind of going up and down the beer wall. And we have 38 self-serve taps, so we have 28 downstairs on 14 screens, and then we have a second beer wall on the second floor, which is also a game room. So in addition to beer and cocktails and wine and food, amazing food, we have a free game room. So we have like old school arcade games. We have TVs upstairs and all over the restaurant that local sports on. But obviously the coolest feature would be the beer wall itself. And there's a safeguard in place. So customers can only drink up to 32 ounces at a time. And that's just so no one's over drinking, and we're making sure everyone's still safe. So while they're being their own bartender to an extent, they're limited to what they can actually drink. And then once they hit their limit, a staff member has to reauthorize their card. And it's really cool because all of those screens on the beer wall work at its own computer. So, when it's really, really packed, the staff member can just walk up, put their staff member card, hit reauthorize card. They hold the customer's card to the screen for 2 seconds, and now the customer has access to 32 more ounces of beer. So it's been a hit. I mean, that's the gist of it. We also do crowlers to go. So we pride ourselves in having a really diverse craft beer list, everything from stouts and IPAs and double IPAs, and we do fruit beers and we do sour ales and pilsners and everything you could think of, especially now with it being fall. We like to keep a lot of pumpkin beers on, a lot of different lagers on. We're trying to get Yingling that Hershey Kiss beer they have right now. So we try to always kind of keep the beer wall pretty festive, and we did win best draft list in Berks County in 2019. So that was really exciting for us.
Congratulations on that, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. My business partner and general manager, Josh Trevor, he's a beer cicerone, so he's very in tune with the craft beer world, and I let him create the draft list. So rightfully so, I told him to put his name on the plaque, and it was just nice. It was nice. He was excited about it, and I'm really thankful for him because he knows his stuff.
I have to put my own plug in there when you say the food's great. As you already know, I'm not a big beer drinker, although you have other drinks. So for people who don't drink beer, it's not like you can't go to Beer Wall. There's a full bar available to you. You can have other things. But I love the food, and I was so disappointed when you told me the other day that my favorite avocado toast is coming off the menu. But actually, I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on because the chef does have some really creative takes on whatever he's making, and it's always really, really good. So Can't wait to check it out. When did the new menu go into effect? Is it just in the last week?
It was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So yeah, so
All right.
2 weeks ago, as of yesterday, we rolled out our fall/winter menu. So I'll have to tell Chef Ben to put the avocado toast back on for the spring. We normally switch it around mid-February or early February. We'll switch it and put some spring stuff on there. But yeah, the food
that works for me.
Yeah, and it's a from scratch kitchen, so everything it's not just your it's not just mozzarella sticks and buffalo wings. It's not your normal bar fare. Like, we like to keep it simple. Like, we have burgers and we have, appetizers and small sandwiches and large plates, but they're all done with more of a, I don't want to say higher end feel, but like, all of our burgers range from, $13 to $15. So we always tell people the only thing frozen that they're getting on their plate is the French fries. And even the French fries, people go crazy for. They're like plank cut, thin, crispy fries. We do duck fat fries, which are tossed in duck fat oil with Parmesan and this other seasoning that Chef Ben likes to put on it. So that's been a staple of our menu: the duck fat fries, hot chicken strips. I can go on and on. The menu's online. We can get into that some more, but we start with hot wings, which are amazing. So again, we like to be different. Instead of doing buffalo wings, Chef Ben and Josh were like, we're gonna do hog wings. I don't know if you guys have ever had hog wings. It's pretty much like a pork shank, so it almost looks like a buffalo wing, but it's pork, and it's like an apple butter barbecue sauce. It's really good.
You're making me hungry now.
I know.
It sounds delicious. And by the way, I noticed you have takeout. Are you still on Delivery Dudes and those kinds of things? Are you still working with them? Okay, great.
Yeah, we're on Delivery Dudes and Uber Eats.
Okay,
Yep.
terrific. Yep, I've used Delivery Dudes already to get food from Beer Wall. So don't have to miss out even if you're not going out. You can still eat there.
Right.
Did you have any difficulty finding good staff? I've noticed that when I was inside to eat, you always had some really professional staff, it seemed, the servers, and certainly the chef knows what he's doing, obviously. And I believe you have a general manager who runs things for you, but that could be changing. We'll get into that shortly.
Yeah.
Did you have any difficulties with finding people, or was that pretty easy?
Honestly, no, we didn't. I mean, I'd say probably 97% of our staff are the same people that have been there since we opened our doors, in April of 19. We had maybe, one or two new faces, a new server here and there, but our best staff, the ones that get the most hours, they've been there since we've opened. And that was really just Josh, my general manager, Josh. It was pretty much his connections. He's been in the restaurant industry probably for 12 years. So he had some connections from his old job. When Chef Ben came over from Ganley's, he brought over a line cook with him, Gary, who's, he's also amazing. So really what started happening is we started hiring people, and then they'd bring their friend, and then they just wanted to be part of like this new cool hip, restaurant / bar that opened in West Reading. And they all wanted to be in West Reading because that's where, that you have all the festivals, and it's just a hip part of town. There's not any other place like it in the Reading area. So it's funny because with that came, people saying, "Oh, Sway, we hear you're stealing staff, and you have a guy from the Pike, and you got Third and Spruce and Liberty Taproom," and I'm like, we're just calling people that apply, and Josh is interviewing them, and if he likes them, we're hiring them. So yeah, no, we've gotten really lucky. They're all experienced. They've all worked at either places like Applebee's or Texas Roadhouse or the Pike Cafe or Third and Spruce. So we have a really, really amazing staff.
Great. Yeah, you do. And once you opened, what kind of response did you see initially from Berks County and from the Albright community? What was it like initially when you opened? Big splash, gradual buildup? How would you characterize it?
No, it was mayhem. I mean, it was, and I'm not kidding. I mean, there, like, the first few months, I mean, you could barely walk in there on a Friday or a Saturday night. And it's funny because a lot of that came from kind of teasing it and marketing it for, probably 8 or 9 months before we opened it. A lot of word of mouth, a lot of people chattering about it, especially once we put it out there that we had the license and we were planning to open in the spring. So when we first opened, yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I remember at one point I was standing in the middle of the restaurant on like a Saturday evening, and it's weird because everything almost went like that. Like everything went kind of quiet, and I just stood there and took it all in. And I think this lady noticed it because she came over to me and she was like, "Are you Josue?" I'm like, "Yeah." She was just like, "Honey," she says, "just soak it all in." And it was just a really cool moment for me because she was like, "I read the story about Albright," and she was just, "I can tell you're kind of like, you're really soaking it in." Because I might have been standing there for 5 or 10 minutes just looking around like, this is insane how many people are here. And such a diverse crowd, like everyone from, a 21-year-old celebrating their 21st birthday there, to a family having dinner, to an older crowd that's just sitting by the bar having appetizers and some wine. I mean, we really, really do get an amazing, blend of people. And then even Albright, I mean, I think last year we had the alumni night, which was so cool for me. I mean, I met guys that played on the football team, and, they're all, in their 50s and 60s now, and they're sharing stories of their Albright days, while all having a beer and having good food. And, so that was really cool getting to know all those guys. And I think it was homecoming weekend, so they were all going to like the football game the next day. So yeah, that was exciting. I think Stephen reached out to do it again, but obviously the pandemic kind of, messed things up. But I'm sure we'll next year.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that with the pandemic, because you were open for roughly a year or so, and then all of a sudden this pandemic hit. How did that initially impact your business?
Yeah, the pandemic hit in March, so our 1 year anniversary, we were kind of gearing up for like this really big 1 year anniversary like week. Like it wasn't even going to be like a 1 day celebration. We were going to do like a whole 7 days of an anniversary celebration and have different specials and have a DJ in there. And obviously when the pandemic hit, it was scary because no one really knew, I guess the severity of the COVID-19 and how it was going to impact the restaurants the way it did. So when it first happened, we were open for takeout for a little bit. And then we just made the decision just to close the doors. I was at the time, I think it was so new and people were just so scared. They weren't even getting takeout from restaurants. I think everyone just felt more safe cooking their own meals and staying in the house. So we were initially closed for 6 weeks. I mean, ghost town. I mean, we gave all of our produce away to staff. We flushed out all the beer lines. We took a loss, a couple $100, if not more, in all the beer that just went, like there were a few beers that we were able to save, but we lost money, as every business did. And we just felt like, the smartest thing to do was just to close doors and try to weather the storm. We spoke to Nancy, who was nice enough to pretty much waive the rent. Obviously the SBA loans and all of those programs put a freeze on everything, so nobody was paying anything. And then, after the 6 weeks, we thought, we just can't continue to not make money. We have to reopen. So we got creative and we created this takeout menu, which was simple items, just like, chicken fingers and fries and mac and cheese and cheese stick sandwiches. And we actually ended up doing relatively well with that takeout menu. I don't know what it was, but we did pretty decent. So that's what we did for probably a month or two until we finally moved into the outdoor seating. So that helped big time because that was around probably June, mid or late June, where only places that had outdoor permits were allowed to have people sit down and eat. So that helped. It helped a little bit. And then, we moved into the 25%, and then we moved into the 50%. So we've been able to weather the storm relatively well. But overall, I mean, to answer the question, in a more concrete manner, we essentially lost, probably 150 grand from the moment of the shutdown, from what would have been our 1 year anniversary, those 5 or 6 or 7 weeks, considering we do probably 25 to 30 grand a week, we lost money, so when I did my taxes in July, they were good. And, my accountant was very encouraging in that, he pretty much said, Josue, if there was no pandemic, you would have been, your investors would have been pretty happy with year one numbers, not to get into or disclose any numbers in detail, but we did well. I mean, we did 1.1 million year one in general, so that was without having the revenue or the lost revenue of the pandemic. But overall, we still celebrated just being able to say that we were $1 million restaurant, which is nice. And we're just
That's amazing. Congratulations for first year to hit that. That's terrific.
Yeah, and we actually found out the customer was on December 30th or the 31st. It was New Year's Eve that day. It was around 5 o'clock. I don't know what customer it was, and I so wish I would have knew what ticket it was that put us over that $1 million mark for total sales. And that's something we thought of after. But I remember getting the text from my partner, and he was like, "Sway, we did it. We're at over $1 million," and that was New Year's Eve of last year. So, but we're doing good now. I mean, we're doing as good as we can be doing with the restrictions,
Have you put any restrictions or changes in place now that you see becoming permanent? Now that you're back open from the pandemic, is there anything you've learned or anything you're going to continue on with?
The only thing probably, like we did put these really cool social distancing stickers on like the floor of the actual tap wall. Keep, just kind of like an indicator so people, know to kind of stay within that distance from the person in front of them at the actual beer wall. So we'll keep that. We put, hand sanitizer pumps by the tap walls. We have plastic cups for anyone that doesn't want to, use the glass cups. We do sanitizer wipes. That's pretty much it. I mean, we just put more of an emphasis on cleaning, like we constantly wipe down the taps and the screens, and we wipe down all the menus. We sanitize them down after anyone, uses them. But besides that, and obviously masks, which is huge. We obviously have masks, which we were able to get cool little beer wall masks made that should be coming in any week. So the masks are probably going to be permanent until otherwise. But other than that, yeah, we're just, making sure that people are safe, and everyone in the kitchen is wearing masks and wearing gloves, and, hopefully all of this passes,
What about outdoor? Did you expand your plans for outdoor this year because of COVID, or is it pretty much what you expected to be doing anyway in terms of outdoor seating?
Yeah, I mean, the outdoor seating, it's well, in the beginning, it was a lifesaver that we had it for those first few months that we were allowed to have only outdoor seating. But as of now, we still plan to utilize it because it's nice, even because this is the thing now. With the law, you have to be sitting down and eating in order to be able to drink. So what we invested in one of those big heat lamps to put out back now. So we are going to keep the outdoor seating out back open, probably through December or November, or as long as we can, given the weather. But we do have a heat lamp out there, so it's nice to be able to utilize those 5 tables. That's another, 20 people that can sit out there. And plus, people feel, for whatever reason, people feel safer when they're outdoors with the whole pandemic.
Great. So what's next for you and your business? I know you've mentioned the possibility of other beer wall locations. What are your plans going forward?
Yeah, so we finally got an approval for our Lancaster, or I should say Lancaster, because I'm not sure if that's because I'm not like a Berks County native by birth or whatever. So I say Lancaster, and I can't tell you how many times I've gotten corrected. And you're like, it's Lancaster. So we did, as of 2 weeks ago, we got an approval for the Lancaster liquor license, which was like a weight lifted off, all of our shoulders. So we're waiting to make the formal announcement once we close on it. So we're going through the closing process now and signing all the documents, and We have to, put our down payment. And once we get the license out of, it's in holding, it's in escrow right now. So once we finally get the license in our possession, we'll make an announcement. But yeah, so we're hopeful to be opening our second location in downtown Lancaster. It's going to be on 114 North Prince Street. And we're hopeful we can be open maybe next month sometime. I don't have an exact date, but
will that be beer wall on Prince then instead of beer wall on Penn?
Yeah,
Okay.
so we got lucky with the name. It sounds great. We didn't want to overthink it. So yeah, it's going to be called Beer Wall on Prince. We do have a parking garage across the street. And yeah, it's going to be 32 taps versus 38. So we only had space to do 32 self-serve taps. But it's going to be a little bit different from West Reading. The menu's not going to be the same. There'll be a couple of staple items like the hot chicken and duck fat fries and hog wings and things like that we'll bring out there. But we're going to have more entrees. So Chef Ben wants to kind of utilize and show more of his skill set out there, given that it's a much more competitive scene with the chefs and the restaurants in Lancaster. So we want to bring more of an elegant menu. The beer wall itself it's a little nicer. We had a little more money to invest in that one. So the beer wall itself, it's nice, but the idea is still the same. It's a full service restaurant. Besides the beer being self-serve, we have a second floor, so we do have a game room in that one as well. We have a little beer garden, so we have outdoor seating, which we plan to offer. We have a couple heat lamps out there as well. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be awesome. And we'll have a full bar over there. So in West Reading, we like to keep it local and sort of crafty, and we only carry Pennsylvania products. So like all of our, vodkas and, the whiskeys and even the wines, like, our high-end wine is from Foligno Estate, which is amazing. I don't know if you guys have been to Foligno Estate, but so we like to keep that one more local, but given Lancaster and the scene with the college, with Millersville, we're going to have a full top shelf bar over there. So we're pretty excited.
I'll say congratulations. I think you're going to do really, really well. Lancaster's got quite a robust bar scene, downtown scene, even more so than West Reading. So you picked a great location again to get involved in.
Yeah, and that's the idea. Just kind of keep building on one, and hopefully after that we can go to Westchester, which is kind of in the works a little bit. We're kind of waiting to see what happens with this pandemic and things like that. But we do have some financial investors who are very interested in Westchester. And then after that, hopefully Philadelphia. That would be like the big one, if we can get one in Center City.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question for you before we take any questions from the audience. You mentioned a little bit how you were working at Penske in the corporate job when you first started in SPS as a student, and then throughout this process, how you've evolved into becoming an entrepreneur now. How overall do you feel your life has changed since completing your Albright degree and starting up Beer Wall on Penn? Do you have a more of a sense of what you want to do with the rest of your life than you did when you got that corporate job at Penske, for example?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I'd say not to, I guess, sound too cliche. That feeling of kind of working for yourself, and I don't want to say not having to answer to anyone, because I still respect my GM, as if he was my boss when I'm there, just because of his pedigree and his experience in the restaurant industry. And, I'm only going to go as far as, him and Ben take me. So I'm very conscious and respectful of them. Yeah, it's one of those things where people think, to be an entrepreneur, it's like, well, it's because I don't want to work for anyone. That's not always true, because as you know, I was consulting and working for Pour My Beer after I left Penske. So after I left Penske, I took another job with this tech company called Pour My Beer, who's actually responsible for the self-serve technology that we use at Beer Wall on Penn. And their CEO, he's a Shippensburg grad from Virginia originally. So there was the universe was just like putting me in weird places. And I'm like, this is crazy, this is happening. So instead of getting my degree and being a full-fledged entrepreneur, I decided to still work for someone else and use that time um, to really just improve on my sales skills and to learn the technology a lot more. And there was synergy there because I had to be well on Penn. So I was already working around the technology. So now I was dealing with casinos and resorts and hotel chains and other restaurant people who wanted the technology. So it was a good transition into now finally, which was probably a good spot to close on, which I left Pour My Beer in August, and I'm finally actually, working, as a full-fledged entrepreneur at Beer Wall on Penn. So I think now it's good that you asked me that, because the part that I like the most is just not having that pressure, like not having that, like that anxiety. Because even before that, Penske was 7 years of sales, and for anyone that's in a sales job, it's very demanding. It's always about numbers. It's always about your next sale. It's always about, well, you did this amount this year. What are you going to do next year? What accounts are you closing this month? So yeah, I mean, as of the last, month, just having that sense of freedom of I'm actually working and putting my time and energy to my own brand versus someone else's brand. Um, that's definitely that feeling. I guess you can compare it to not really feeling like you're working, even though I'm putting in, 10, 11-hour days over at the restaurant. It doesn't feel like work. It just feels like something that I should be doing and something that I'm proud to be doing.
And we're proud of you. It sounds like you are living the American dream, because that is it, being able to do what you love and enjoy it, enjoy every day of it. So
Yeah,
congratulations
yeah.
again.
And another thing, it's like, it's not always about the money, because I've made a conscious decision to make significantly less, but it's kind of like that sacrifice of, would you rather make 100 grand a year working for someone else, or make 35 grand a year, but you're working for yourself and you're building your own brand. So there's just that dichotomy of it that you have to be able to manage. But yeah, I hope everyone can experience that, especially with the program.
Yeah. Money can't buy happiness, they say. And that is true. Yeah. Thank you very much again for participating in Albright Achievers. We really appreciate it.